Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Shark Trust podcast, the podcast where we go behind the scenes of shark conservation. And today is going to be a fun-filled episode where we're going to be going under the water at all the amazing things that sharks do. And we are joined by an underwater photographer and the marketing manager at the Shark Trust, Caroline Robertson-Brown.
Hi.
Hello, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Could you start off by just saying a little bit about yourself, kind of your background at the Shark Trust, but then also as an underwater photographer?
Sure, yeah. So as you said, I'm the marketing manager for the Shark Trust. And really, I think that my role is to shout about all the great things that the Shark Trust does. So that I think that in essence sums up what I have to do. And whether that's on our website or social media or writing press releases or going to events and telling people in person all about the work that we do, doesn't really matter, but it's just about getting that message out there. And then myself, I am a biologist. My degree was in biology, and then I did a master's in animal behaviour. And while I was doing that, I was studying seabirds in the Caribbean, and the person that used to take me out to the island every day owned a dive shop. And every day they'd go, learn to dive. And I was like, no, I'm scared of the sea. I don't like it. I never even snorkeled. I didn't like it. And but then my husband, Nick, came over to join me on the islands out in the Caribbean. And of course, she went and said to him, do you want to learn to dive? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I was kind of roped into it, and I really didn't want to do it. And the minute I put my head underwater, I was like, this is the place for me. I think when you can't see what's under the water, it's much harder to fall in love with it. But the minute I put my head underwater, I was like, fantastic. And then on our last dive, a shark came up the wall, swam right by us, and off it went into the blue. And Nick and I just looked at each other and we were like, we're going to be spending a lot of time under here. This is fantastic. And it was a journey from there. We became dive instructors. We owned our own dive shop. We became underwater photographers and have been really lucky to just travel around the world photographing sharks and rays wherever we can.
That's absolutely incredible. And I think kind of being in that kind of realm, like you said, like once you've put your head under and you're just like into this whole new world, and the fact that you then became this kind of amazing underwater photographer, especially for sharks, it kind of gives people a glimpse in there if they haven't dived or don't have the opportunity to dive.
I think that's what I'm really passionate about, that 99.9% of people, I would imagine, I don't know what the stat really is, never get the chance to go under there and see sharks in their natural environment. And so to be able to take photos to give people a feel of what it's like is really important to me.
And if you think back, I would love to hear some, because obviously you've dived all over the world, you've seen so many different sharks and ray species. Have you got any of your favourite memories? Not necessarily favourite shots, but just
yeah. I think
blew your mind.
There are a few that stand out. How many am I allowed to go into? I could talk for hours. Two. Okay. All right. I think then I'll start off in the UK. The first time I saw a basking shark was just unbelievable. So we actually went out with Charlie Hood, who of course is a trustee, and we went out on his boat, and it was this amazing flat, calm day. And Charlie was like, just look out for a little black fin sticking out the water. Keep your eyes peeled. We're definitely going to see them today. And there was about 8 of us on the boat, and we were all really excited. And I kept going, there's one. And he was like, that's a rock. And then I go, there's one. He's like, that's a buoy. And I was just getting, he was like, actually, Caroline, you stop looking. Everyone else looked for sharks. And then he saw one from way off and he pointed at it. Still couldn't see it. And he slows the boat down, brings the boat to a stop. And then suddenly you see this big fin. We're getting on our gear as fast as we possibly could. But Charlie was like, no, calm down. I need to talk to you about how to do this. Nobody swims towards the shark ever. You put yourself in a position to stay in the water. If it comes to you, then aren't you lucky? If not, you wait for the next time. And the basking shark was just swimming up and down this bay in Cornwall. And we slid into the water really gently, not to spook it, and then just waited with the camera. And we put our heads underwater and the visibility wasn't great. It was a bit green.
It's the UK.
Yeah, exactly. and then you'd lift your head out and see this big fin coming closer and closer, and you put your head under, still can't see it. What's going on? Head up, and then suddenly this huge mouth just appears out of the gloom. Nick and I are taking photos, and it just swims right by, and it swam past Nick and shut its mouth and just swam around and then opened its mouth and started feeding again. Oh my God. Just one of the most amazing days ever. And we spent all day just in the water with these 2 basking sharks. Fantastic. I mean, they're huge. Such a privilege. So I think that's one that really stands out. And I didn't get very many good photos on that day, but Nick took some absolute belters. So that was brilliant. And I would love to try and do that again sometime. I think the other occasion was with a manta ray. So it was in a place called Socorro, which is off Mexico, but it's like a 36-hour sail off the Mexican coast straight out into the Pacific. And there are just these little rocks that stick out of the Pacific, and they're really popular for loads of different sharks and rays to come. And I think they come there to get cleaned for sure. So the manta rays come with these little cleaner wrasps, come and take all the parasites off them. But I think also it's just a place where fish aggregate, so other sharks come to feed. So it's an amazing place for wildlife. It's a bit out in the middle of nowhere, so it can be a little bit nerve-wracking getting in the water. There's some quite strong currents. And on the trip up, we had a manta specialist biologist on the boat, and they were giving lectures in the evening. And on one lecture, she turned and she said to us, "And you can communicate with manta rays." And I was like, okay, look, I love them. I really love them, but they're a fish. You can't communicate with fish. But I was just like, I didn't say anything, obviously. I just thought that in my head. And we got in the water, and these mantas are huge, and they're flying along underwater. And this one big manta came up, and it stopped, and its eyes like a cricket ball size, like this. Yeah. And it stopped right in front of me and was just looking at me. And I took some photos, and I was really excited to have this huge animal come and see me. And it was clearly, eyeballing me. And I thought, well, I'm not going to get a better chance to try and communicate with a manta ray ever again in my life. So I put my camera down, and I went like this. And I put my arms stretched out and made a star shape. And the manta looked at me, and then it went from horizontal to vertical right in front of me, so that its wings were much wider than mine, but copying what I was doing. And I was like, that must be fluke. Can't cut that. That didn't just happen, sort of thing. So then I bent my arm in and touched my shoulder, and the manta fin went like this, and it touched itself and went back out again. And just telling you makes the hairs on my arms stand up. And I was just like, please let Nick be photographing this. And it did this, and it's still there in front of me. And so I wiggled my arm out in front of me, and it unfurled its calaphic lobe, is that what you call it, in the front, and just wiggled it like that in front of me. And I was like, I'm playing Simon Says with a giant manta ray in the middle of the Pacific. And I was a little bit tearful, and I didn't know what else to do, and I got bored and swam off to the next diver. And that was my little interaction with a giant manta. And yeah, those 2 occasions, I think, because they're big, charismatic species, but yeah, also just really engaging, amazing moments.
That is incredible. That is mind-blowing.
I know.
And I've not heard that story.
Have
So
you not
I'm just
heard
like,
that
oh my God.
Yeah.
And was Nick taking pictures, or was he distracted by
So
someone else?
Nick's got a picture of us, the manta and me, bending our fin and arm in. So he's got a picture, but that was when we have to carry videos all the time, because actually, I can tell that story, and I think people do engage with that story, but to be able to put the video behind that would have been fantastic. So we now both always carry video cameras with us as well. We're not experts in videography, but we carry them to be able to tell stories like that.
That is incredible.
Wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
And kind of with that behaviour, clearly it's interacting with you. Yeah. Have you seen that? Is that behaviour different between species, or is it different between individuals of those species?
So the mantas, I think, the divers, there are plenty of divers at that dive site. So I think the mantas that go to this particular dive site are not unaccustomed to seeing divers. And actually you see them hovering above divers because they like the bubbles that they exhale on it. And whether they like it because it helps remove parasites or whether they just like the feeling of it, I don't know. But they definitely sort of hover over. So I think, you know, the more these animals get used to divers being in the water, I think the more they'll come up and go, oh, okay, you haven't done anything nasty to me yet. Let's go and see who, you know, they can become a bit more engaging. But I think different species are different as well. I think the mantas definitely try and engage with people more than other species.
That is amazing. And with people diving with sharks, whether it's just for the experience of diving with them or taking pictures of them, taking videos of them, do you think that can also like change the shark's behaviour? If that makes sense.
So I think, yeah, of course. I think depending on the circumstances, if there are lots of divers, lots of bubbles, I think a lot of animals will head away, and sharks are no different. You know, they're a bit like, what's all this noise? Because we make noise underwater with the bubbles. The bubbles themselves, I think we probably, you know, a shark might be swimming along a reef, see a diver and go, maybe not, and sort of just avoid it. I don't think we change their behaviour hugely, but yeah, I think they do sometimes look at divers and go. And then with photography, when we're using the flashlights underwater, some sharks actually, because when the batteries recharge, it makes a really high-pitched whine that sometimes you can hear as a human, but most of the time you can't. And some sharks, lemon sharks, will come up and bite your strobes. They must think, I don't know what that noise sounds like to them, but they'll come and just mouth your strobe and then go, oh, no, that's not what I thought it was, and swim away. Sometimes too late for the strobe, but yeah, we've lost 2 strobes to that behaviour. So, yeah, I think we do alter what happens underwater. Fish, especially seahorses, hate bright lights. So, I mean, we don't shine it on them, but should you, they turn away from it all the time. And other fish, when you fire the strobes, will swim away because they just like, what was that sort of thing. But yeah, I think it's inevitable we change behaviours.
And kind of with that, kind of these things that potentially will be like out the fish, and you kind of spoke about it a bit with basking sharks. Are there like codes of conduct that you guys follow, or you would encourage people to follow?
Absolutely. So I think, you know, never chase anything. I know it sounds pretty obvious, but it can be really exciting to see something underwater. It is quite tempting to go, oh, it's swimming away from me, I want to see it more, and follow it. And so you have to be quite, you know, have a bit of self-control and go, no, it's swimming away from me for a reason probably, so let it go. If it feels comfortable, it will turn around and come back. So I think that's the main thing. Never reach out and touch anything. I once saw someone just put their hand out onto a tail of a shark, and they were quite surprised at how bendy sharks are. And it turned around, didn't do anything, it just turned around and gave them a look, but it turned in such a short distance that they were like, yeah, sorry. So you should never do that. It puts both the shark and you at risk. So there. And then after that, it's really about looking and seeing, are you disturbing this animal doing what it's doing? So with the basking sharks, you know, they are mouths open, feeding up and down. You don't want to get in their way, disturb that behaviour in any way. So I think it's just about thinking sensibly and not getting too excited while you're underwater and doing things you shouldn't.
Yeah, which could probably be quite hard.
It can be quite hard.
Like 9-metre shark.
Yeah.
And if we now go into kind of the photography side of it, because loads of people dream of being able to do underwater photography. Myself, I have, but I've literally just bought a GoPro, so there's basically no settings on it. But it gets more and more complex. There's probably like different levels of underwater photography. If someone wanted to start out doing it now, what sort of advice would you say for getting into it?
I would say, I mean, you want to be, the number one piece of advice is be really comfortable as a diver. You don't want to task load yourself and put yourself in danger. That's, you know, it's quite common to see people go too deep, run out of air, do things that they really don't want to do because they're so excited about taking photographs or filming or whatever they're doing. So it's about being really comfortable with your diving first. After that, it's about buying the best equipment you can afford, because then you don't end up going, that's not quite what I wanted, and buying it again. So, try and buy some good equipment, get good advice from people as to, what you should get, and then practice, practice, practice. So I spend hours in a pool photographing a mug or an orange or something, but it doesn't really matter what. It's about learning the settings of your camera, learning where to put those lights. Lighting's the most difficult thing underwater, because whilst you're in the Bahamas and it looks beautiful and clear, the water, it's still got lots of particles in, and if you fire your strobes straight at those particles, it looks like it's snowing underwater. In your images, you just get all of this, it's called backscatter, and you just light up all of those particles in the water. It absolutely ruins your picture. But there are techniques that you can learn to avoid that with your positioning of your equipment and the settings that you put. So I would say, get the best equipment you can. Take a course, or read loads, or watch loads of YouTube, but learn, and then practice as much as you can outside of the area, before you go and see those sharks. Make sure that you know what you're doing with the camera, so that when that happens, you're ready. And even when I get in the water now, if I'm going to photograph a pygmy seahorse or a basking shark, I will shoot other random things, so people, other small things, coral or whatever. So, but to get my settings correct before I then have the shark or ray or whatever it might be coming towards me, so that I've got more of a chance of getting a good shot. And then just keep at it. Don't be disappointed if it doesn't work out the first time, because it doesn't work out the first time for anyone.
And when you say you take almost like practice shots, I guess, beforehand, is that because the settings change depending on the place that you're in, or
so the depth that you're at, because it's all about how much natural light is reaching where you are. And even at the same depth, if you're photographing great hammerheads, for example, in the Bahamas, they'll be swimming over sand, and if you fire lights at sand, it just lights up and it ruins your picture. So you have to have your strobe set higher up so that they're not bouncing off the sand. So it's about different depths, different substrates, different environments. The settings will change for all of those, whether you're shooting up towards the sun or whether you're shooting out towards the dark blue. It changes every time. So it is worth taking those practice shots to get your settings sorted before the animal shows up.
Amazing. And when you go on these dives and say, you're diving with great hammerheads or something like that, do you have shots in your mind that you're like, that's the shot I want to get? Or is it you take a shot and you're just lucky?
Little bit of both. Photographers don't like to say that was a lucky shot, because the luck involves you having paid a huge amount of money to get there, to have learnt how to use your equipment and all of that. But of course, with a wild animal, there is always an element of, did it turn towards you at just the right angle and what have you, to create a really nice shot. But sometimes you plan what you want. So if I'm going somewhere, I look at other photographers that have been, what images did they take, have a look at what the environment's going to look like, how deep is it, how long am I going to get to do this. Nick and I might even plan a front cover for a magazine. So we might go, if you're hovering there, and I'll just wait until the shark comes near you and then we'll start shooting or what have you. But those plans have to be flexible, because, as wild animals don't do what you say. so you hope, you have some ideas and you hope, and then you get down and see what's there and adapt to that.
So you said then about front covers of magazines. We've got an example of a magazine.
Yes.
So this is Shark Focus, which you can get if you're a Shark Trust member. So if you subscribe, you get this. It's full of amazing cool things. But the thing I want to show is the front cover of this is my second favourite ever picture of a shark or ray. I know you didn't take this.
I didn't take this. So I would love to say that I did, but my husband Nick took that shot. So that was taken in the Cayman Islands, and it's a spotted eagle ray. And actually, it's not the shot he wanted. So you talk about this planning. He nearly deleted it. Because he was just like, we have this rule, never take a picture of a fish bum. The idea is to have them head on, not that way around. And he was the eagle ray was eating in the sand. It was digging in the sand, and Nick was slowly making his way around so as not to disturb the eagle ray at all. Unfortunately, some other divers saw what he was doing and went, "Oh, eagle ray," and charged towards it. And so just as he was getting close to it, it took off and swam, and he just took a shot to see it, show that he'd seen an eagle ray, because they're his favourite animal. And then we got home, actually, before we even looked at that image. And I was like, "Oh, that's lovely." And he was like, "What? No, it's awful." And I was like, "No, it's not." And it was me that cropped it into that front cover shape and went, "Look at that." And he was like, "Oh, that's quite nice." And it's won awards since. And yeah, obviously is a front cover there on Shark Focus.
It's absolutely incredible. And I even wore a top with an eagle ray on it.
Fantastic.
In support of
to celebrate it. Yeah.
So I think it's so good. But it would be rude to not talk about some of your photography as well, because you're obviously just as good. And this is one. Would you like to talk about your experience of photographing?
Absolutely. So this is a great hammerhead shark in the Bahamas, in a place called Bimini, an island called Bimini. And the great hammerhead is my favourite shark. I love the whole idea of the shark evolving a head that shape. I just think it's absolutely incredible how it's adapted to its environment and what it's going to eat. And so this is a dive probably just at about 8 meters, so you can spend lots and lots of time there. And I think lots of people think that being underwater with sharks will be quite frenetic, that sharks move quite quickly, but actually hammerheads really just trundle along. They go quite slowly. They're absolutely great to photograph, and they come right up close. So I use a bit of equipment called a fisheye lens, which is a lens that shoots really, really wide shots. And so to get that shot, the hammerhead will have been nearly touching the camera. So it would have been maybe 2 inches from the camera. And we were talking about luck though earlier, it just tipped its head up and just covered the sun behind, which would have made a horrible bright ball in the background. And obviously, opened its mouth and gave me a smile just as we're coming. So of course, there's a little bit of luck that he moved, or she, I don't know, I can't tell from that shot, just in the right way for my image. But yeah, I'm really pleased with that, and I just love them. Look at them; they're great.
Like, they are incredible, and I think even like these shots, it really highlights kind of like the ampullae of Lorenzini, like on the snout there as well. And yeah, just.
Yeah, so I mean, amazing. I know how lucky I am that I get to do this. Every time I get in the water, I'm just like, brilliant. And every dive is a shark or ray dive, You don't have to go to places that are well known for it, because you can find them literally anywhere in the ocean. You just have to have a little bit of luck.
Yeah. Have you got any stories of bad luck? Of trips where you're like, I'm going because I want to take a picture of this, and then
of course. I mean, I told you about the basking sharks, and that was the first trip we ever did. We tried to recreate that trip 3 times, never saw them. You can spend a lot of money looking for sharks, and sometimes I feel like it's better just to go diving and not worry about what you're going to see. I've got a friend, Johan, who travelled all over the world for years trying to see manta rays, and just never saw them, to the extent that we knew he must be jinxed on them. So yeah, it happens a lot. You go on dives expecting one thing or hoping for one thing, but I don't think there's any such thing as a bad dive. You go and you just see something different, and it might not be a shark or a ray that you were hoping for, but you might find a frogfish or a nudibranch or something, so there's loads of amazing stuff under the water. And whilst we're all obsessed with sharks and rays, there's plenty of other things to see.
And sorry, because you've mentioned frogfish now, if people wanted to have a look at some of your photos, because you and Nick have made some, taken amazing ones. I said that's my second favourite, because my favourite one is one of a whale shark.
The whale shark, yeah.
Which I haven't got a copy of with me right now. But we can put it over in this video. But that's an amazing one. If people wanted to have a look at your images, How can they find those?
I think the best place is to just look for Frogfish Photography. That's the name of our company, and I can tell you why in a minute. But just find us on Facebook or Instagram, basically. That's the best place. We do have a website, but we don't update it as much as we should. So you tend to see the most recent images on social media. But we call ourselves Frogfish Photography because for years we looked for them. Years and years as divers, I wanted to see this thing called a frogfish, and they're quite well camouflaged. So, you know, they're hard to find. And divers would say, but there's one here just on this rock and what have you. And we'd go out and we'd look at that rock and we never found them. And I'm going to guess 6 or 7 years we looked for them and never saw one. Talking about, you know, not having any luck. And then so we just thought it'd be funny to... Well, and we have seen them now, and so we thought it would be funny to call ourselves Frogfish Photography. So,
do you think it was bad luck of not seeing them, or do you think they were just because they are so camouflaged? Do you think they were just so camouflaged that you were just like?
I think it's exactly that. I think we just didn't know how hard we had to look, and so we kept going to these places that people said, and looking and going, well, I can't see anything. But then when you first see one, you're like, oh, I get it now. And then you find it much easier, but because they are incredible. They change colour and texture and all sorts to exactly match what they're sitting on. They're incredible animals.
And then using your photography of frogfish, it's not just shark focus that your photography goes for. Obviously, it's won awards and stuff like that. Have you got other platforms that it's going on, like other magazines, other things?
Yeah. So I write and take photos, and so does Nick, for Scubaverse, which is an online diving magazine. So scubaverse.com, you can go and look there, and you'll not just see our photos, but actually read about some of those encounters that we've had and trips that we've done them on. So that's a good place. But they've been all over the place. So for the 2012 Paralympic Games, we were commissioned to take photos of the athletes for the big billboards for Channel 4 that was hosting it. So all, you know, and our images have been published in magazines and newspapers all around the world.
That is absolutely incredible. So yeah, not just
just
and animals. It's like
anything,
basically anything. And with kind of that, it's going to magazines, it's reaching all these kind of new people, and people are just getting in. Say they're just getting into taking underwater photography and stuff like that. Where are, or maybe your favourite places? Not necessarily the best places, because as you said, every dive's amazing. But where are your favourite places to do underwater photography?
I think it's a hard question to answer because it really depends for what you're going. So if you want sharks, then the Bahamas is, you know, one of the best places in the world to be able to see them in clear, shallow, you know, easy conditions, basically. So I think, you know, it's not just the sharks themselves. The Bahamas makes it very easy to go and take photos of them because you're not struggling with the visibility like you might do in the UK. For the little tiny stuff, though, with frogfish and pygmy seahorses, Indonesia is absolutely fantastic. And you've got the added bonus of it being so wonderful above the water, and the food is absolutely amazing. So, you know, there are other reasons to travel other than sharks and rays. So I think, yeah, those two destinations as countries are probably my favourites.
And if people were, say, like listening, watching the UK, they might not be able to go to the Bahamas, might not be able to go to Indonesia. Where can you see sharks in the UK photography?
In the UK, you can see the small spotted cat shark pretty much anywhere you go. You know, I think some of the best places I've seen them are in the Scottish lochs, and they're really good places to go diving because even if the weather's bad, which, let's face it, it can be in the UK, they are almost like saltwater lakes. So, you know, you are protected often by mountains on either side as well, so the conditions can be better there than they are in other places. But in the summer, you know, basking sharks can show up anywhere from the southwest all the way up Ireland, Isle of Man, and through to Scotland. If you've got the time to spend, you know, doing some tours to go out and see them, then that's definitely worth it. And we get blue sharks in the summer as well. And then we've got a whole host of amazing skates and rays, you know, that are everywhere, all around our coastline, but they take a little bit more, of that in-depth, like looking for frogfish. They're often camouflaged on the sand, so you need to dive a little bit more slowly, look for them, and you'll find them. So there's some great diving around the UK. And if we're not talking about sharks, then seals have to come in at a very close second to sharks and rays, and we have populations in some great diving locations like Lundy down here or the Farne Islands up north, and that's a blast diving with them. So
is that kind of like, I know we're going off of sharks now, but that diving with sharks, you have these kind of like interactions like you were talking about, like the manta ray ones. With seals, obviously, probably quite interactive.
Yeah.
And what's the different feeling you actually feel when you're diving with different animals?
Yeah, so I mean, diving with seals is like diving with golden retriever puppies underwater. Basically, they're naughty, they're funny, they have lots of characters. So the first time I ever did it, Nick and I were swimming along, but I was a little bit ahead of Nick. He was probably taking a photo of something, and then I just felt this tugging on my fin. And I was like, "Don't do that." I thought it was Nick. I was like, "What the hell?" And I turned around and there's just this little seal attached to my fin, shaking it like a dog toy. And I was just like, oh my God. And I tried to sort of turn around in my dry suit and all the gear and try and photograph it. And I didn't realise I didn't have to. It stayed for the whole dive, just playing around with me. Actually got its hands round the camera and was pulling the camera away from me. But they're they're a blast to dive with. Very different. Sharks and rays are more aloof than that. They're not like come and play, whereas seals, just love a bit of entertainment, basically.
That's amazing. And with this kind of, you've got all of these experiences of diving. You said that every dive is amazing. That first time that you saw a shark that you said earlier with Nick, where it kind of swam off and then off into the blue, do you still get that feeling, even if you've photographed that shark 100 times? I don't know if you photographed a shark that many times, but
I have, yes.
Do you still get that like excitement
Every time a shark appears, out of the depths or from a distance away, you just get that, oh my God, it's amazing. That proper, not adrenaline rush, just a proper excitement, just like a little kid, really, every time. To the extent that, I mess up a lot of my photographs because I'm just too excited at seeing the shark coming in the first place. Nick's much more focused. He's much more, got to get the shot. I'm a bit, look, it's a shark, it's great. And then maybe get a shot. It never dulls that excitement and that pleasure at seeing them.
Probably helps with marketing and trying to get people to like it because you are so like
I think I've landed in my dream job because I just have to go on about how great sharks are and how great the work the Shark Trust does to protect them. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, completely agree. Living the dream. And then to kind of sum up this, and this I feel it'd be rude, if you could pick only one shark picture you've taken, one ray picture you've taken, overall your favourite, not necessarily one that you think is the best, but what maybe even the experience is the best.
Yeah, that's tough. Because I don't have any. I meant basking shark, blue shark. My UK shots, I would say I don't have any that really stand out, but the experiences did. I think that great hammerhead shot that you've shown on camera already, I think is one of my favourite shots because it's, right up there, really close. Actually, the images that stand out for me are ones Nick's taken because I'm in them, And no, I know that sounds like really self-involved. Look at me. But it reminds me of that amazing encounter that I had. So there's a picture of me taking that hammerhead shot. So the hammerhead shot I love, but I prefer Nick's shot because it shows me with my camera and a hammerhead right there in front of it. And I think that really, and again, the ray, that shot of me doing the experience with the ray, that shot is the one that really sticks in my memory. So it's not my shots, it's Nick's, because they show me what I saw, and I think that's that storytelling, that feeling of remembering what it was like to be there, is more reflected in his images than mine.
That's amazing. Yeah, kind of almost like saving those memories, so you can just kind of relive it over and over again.
Exactly.
And I'm sure if you zoomed in with incredible detail and not completely pixelated, you could probably see the excitement behind your face in those moments.
I think you probably can. Yeah, absolutely. Big grin on my face. Yeah.
That is, absolutely incredible. So yeah, thank you for coming, talking about shark experiences, underwater photography, giving advice as well. And I'm going to ask you one more question. So if you could give one tiny bit of advice, so someone who's listened to this, they're just discovered that sharks are these amazing things, and you give one advice and they wanted to become basically you when they're older, underwater photographer, love sharks, love rays, what advice would you give them right now?
Go down to your local dive shop. Learn, if you're not already a diver, then start that progress to learn to dive. But if you are already a diver, just get those skills improved. Ending up where I am today, it wasn't a deliberate path. It was a winding route that got me here. So just believe in yourself, learn about the topics that you want, that you're passionate about, keep following that dream, and you'll get there.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Caroline.
Thank you.
For joining us. And that is the end of episode 6. If you'd like to learn more about the work we do at the Shark Trust and shark conservation, you can visit our website at www.sharktrust.org. You can also download our app if you want to get involved in our citizen science work by searching the Shark Trust app in your app store. And also you can follow us on all of our social media, where we'll be posting daily content, a lot of Caroline's images as well, with cool shark facts and how you can get involved in shark conservation. So please subscribe to this, and share it around. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Hetty. Thanks for listening to the Shark Trust podcast. Did you know that you can support our work protecting sharks and rays? Here's just some of the ways you can help today. Join our community of passionate shark supporters and gain access to exclusive events and content by becoming a Shark Trust member. You can adopt these incredible animals, directly supporting our conservation efforts and research projects. Make a donation today. Every donation makes a huge difference. Your contribution will go towards funding our vital work all across the world. And finally, if you want to get more hands-on, you can take part in our citizen science projects. Your data and observations are invaluable to understanding the world of sharks. Together, we can make a difference. Visit our website to find out more and take action today.